Hello, everyone. Welcome to our first episode of season 3 of Progressive HR Live. I am your host, Corinne Wooden-Hollebeck, and I'm here with my guest today, Susan Fierro of Univer.se. So she's the head of people at Univer.se, and we're going to be talking about employee balance and well-being today. So I see there's already a few people that are coming into our comments now, and we're going to say hello. If you're just joining us now, please go ahead and add in the stream who you are, where you're joining us from, and let us know how your day is going. I'm going to go ahead and ask Susan her first question, and then we'll look at our audience and see, what's going on with you guys. So, Susan, how are you doing today?
I'm good, Corinne. How are you?
Fantastic. So here's my first question for you. What are the top 3 employee well-being trends that we should pay attention to right now?
Yeah, I think it really varies depending on the size of team and organization that you have, but the top 3 that I think are really worth noting would probably be just the focus on mental health. That's a big one. Digital solutions. So, moving from on-site things that we do to how do we make things kind of more digital and online available that way. And then I think retention strategies is kind of the third trend that I would really focus on. And probably if I had to stack rank them, that'd be the first one. But yeah, those are 3 that I'm thinking of, and I'm in my head and in my world right now.
So I'm really curious to hear your take on the digital solutions, especially around the digital solutions for mental health. I
Yeah,
think that'll be a really interesting part of our conversation.
totally.
So I am going to go right now to our audience and see who's joining us today. Wow. So we've got Susan. She's joining us from San Jose, California. Hi, Susan. Welcome to the live. We have, and I'm so sorry if I'm going to mess up this name, Nadria from United Arab Emirates. Hi, how are you? And then we have Carol from Shipham. You guys worked together for about 5 years. Carol Howard.
Yes.
And I see a
She
bunch of
lives in Bend, Oregon.
in where?
Carol lives in Bend, Oregon.
Bend, Oregon.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful place. Yeah.
Yeah. So Oregon is one of the only one states that I haven't been to yet. I've never
Oh
been
my
there.
gosh. Well, you have to come. I will host you gladly.
Oh, love it. When's the best time to come?
Springtime. I would
Springtime.
say spring. It's beautiful. The rose garden is gorgeous. Things are blooming. The trees are green and everything. The rain has done its thing and made everything beautiful. So late spring is a perfect time to come visit Oregon.
Okay. I'm definitely coming then. And then we have our good friend Bucky Keaty from People and Cultures at the editorialist.com. And so some of you may know that Becky is going to be my next guest. So Bucky is coming on, and we're going to be talking about editorialist values on episode 2. And then a few more people joining us. Ricky, hi Ricky. Ricky's been a regular in the audience for Progressive HR Live throughout the season. So thank you for joining us again, Ricky. And then we've got Michelle, again from San Jose, California. And we have Rita Davis joining us from snowy Connecticut. Oh, hi. I know Bucky was just telling me this morning that it's snowing out in New York. So I think everybody got our Wisconsin rain and snow yesterday. So if you're just joining us now, please go ahead and introduce yourself in the comments. We're going to come back to some audience participation in a little bit. But I'm going to really jump right in now to the conversation with Susan with my next question. So I'm really curious, how is Univer.se fostering a culture of employee balance and well-being?
Yeah, we are a fully remote global team, so we have to be creative. We can't just rely on we're going to bring a yoga instructor in, or we're going to bring someone in and join in a conference room or something like that. And we also don't have the financial luxury of, meeting on site or meeting, somewhere and, randomly. We do it once a year, but we can't do it that often. So we kind of have to really be creative and rely on those things. And a lot of the things you have in your toolkit, you already have. So I think about just simply the fact of being a fully remote team is helping foster that culture. I have a young child, so I get to, after this call, jump off and probably have lunch with him, check in with him. If it's like a school day, I get to pick him up. All of those things help my well-being and help me feel balanced. So I think, doing that, and for everyone it's different. So I think we are always thinking about ways that we can customize to our team what they need. We host a bi-weekly yoga and meditation session. It's actually led by one of our team members. They actually volunteered and said, hey, I have a yoga certification. Can I do this? So we do it at a time that all of our time zones kind of cross over nicely. It's a little bit later for some people, a little bit earlier for others, but it's a break in the day, and we actually build it into the day. So it's not an after hours thing. It's actually during the workday, and we've got a lot of really great feedback about that. But I also think that, again, back to the no cost, it's already in our toolkit, leading with that, being an example. So, we have our leadership team who, with really no or little prompting from me, is leading in that way of setting boundaries for themselves around, their well-being and talking about things that are maybe impacting them. They're being open and transparent about that so that they're normalizing the conversation, even if it's just on Slack. People are feeling more comfortable talking about how they're doing with those things because they see others doing it as well.
So a little bit about Universe. What's your industry? What does Universe do? How many people are in your team, and how many
Yeah.
people are in the company in general?
Yeah. So Universe is a website builder. We started kind of one of the very first website builders on a phone. So it's an app. If you have an iPhone, that is what you would do. You go to the App Store, you can download that, you can build a website on the go. Our mission is really to make, building website or making, commerce accessible for everyone. So no matter who you are or where you are, you can, low cost of entry to get onto the site. So it's a free app that you can go and build a website. It's very easy to use, and it's very fun to use. It's kind of people kind of explain it like using like building with Legos. It's kind of building those blocks. I said we have folks all over the country and the globe. So we are a fully remote team. We have about 65 employees, and some folks in Spain and in the UK and kind of all over. So it's really an exciting, diverse team. And I'm a team of one. So right now, I joined after kind of a Series B, and we were building the team. And so I'm right now just solo doing this thing on my own.
So that's really interesting that you're fully remote, and then you have
Mm-hmm.
global employees. So do you
Yeah.
have any employees where, like in India, where they're just going to bed while we're just waking up, or in Australia?
Yeah. So we actually do have one person in India, and he's actually a manager. For him, he really likes working late in the evening, so it works well for his team. And we do have a concentration of folks on the East Coast, so like the overlap is much better there than it is for like me on the Pacific time zone. But we still have kind of only 2 core hours for the entire team, the entire week, basically on Monday and on Friday. We have one overlapping hour on Monday that we want people to work, and then one overlapping hour on Friday. And that's just so we can actually keep those core touch points as an entire team. We kick off the week together, and then we end the week together. And we do that for 30 to 45 minutes, kind of depending. And it's always great to just be together, and everyone shows up, even if it's dark out for them and morning for me. We still get together, and it's really a good thing to do.
So do you get a lot of team members saying that the flexibility that Universe has really helps them with their lifestyles and with their mental health?
Oh yeah, I mean, absolutely. I think it is one of the biggest benefits of being a fully remote team is that it can adapt and accommodate people in the ways that they find that they need best, because really, who am I to prescribe to them what they need, right? And if we can offer them that flexibility, both in the programs that we offer, like our flexible time off, or just the way that we show up at work and trying to lean into more asynchronous style of communication, that is up to them to then, as adults, decide how that fits best into their time. And they're able to block out their calendar. They know what's expected of them in terms of like when they actually have to be either in their team meetings or the company wide meetings. But yeah, they can do what's best for them, whether that's sitting down for a meal, or it's coming into the office late because they get to do the morning with their family, whatever that may be, depending on where they're at in the world. It really does work out, and depending on like their lifestyle too.
So when you and I first had a conversation around employee balance and well-being, we discussed that as for as many benefits of being remote and as much benefits as that the remote or the flexibility impacts on wellness. You also mentioned that there are some drawbacks, although few. So I want to know, and one of those drawbacks you mentioned is sometimes the feelings of isolation and loneliness. So I wanted to
Yeah.
know, how can employees connect in a remote world to help them overcome feelings of isolation and loneliness?
Yeah. I mean, I think that there is, we want to think about, and this is the way I think about it, is like, let's not just do something like performatively that we don't know, like that people actually want. If we're hearing that, we know, that it's happening. If I'm feeling that way, I'm sure other people are feeling that way too. So what can we build to not make more work for people? Because it's not like, oh, just host a team building event on Zoom. Because I mean, that may not be the thing that actually helps people. I think there's two things that that I'm trying to focus on when I think about overcoming those feelings of isolation and loneliness. One is like preset things, like we do donut chats. So people are paired together in groups of 2 or 3, each week, to connect, on a time that works for everyone. And I actually had one this morning, and one of my teammates was actually in Spain. He's in kind of the Madrid area. So it was the end of the day for him. It was a really early for me. I, started at, my morning around 8. We jumped on. I was able to talk to him and one other person who's in the Carolinas, and we were able to connect. So it worked out really well to have those kind of like paired meetings with and that's something I don't have to do myself. It automates through, the app in Slack. So doing those. And then I think that oftentimes we forget that just a simple reach out, like if you just send a quick little note, like, hi, I'm just thinking of you. How are you doing? That in itself lets someone know that you're thinking of them. So I can even schedule those if I'm like, okay, I want to make sure I kind of touch this team this week. I can like pre-schedule a bunch of like messages on one night so that I can just go out, for that whole week. And then people will just kind of respond and I can have some ongoing kind of conversation. So I think just thinking about ways that you would want to be reached out to, or, just doing that, the pre-scheduled stuff. And I also think that like when you're working on something that you're passionate about and you have clear kind of goals together, it is like that does help with the connection and feeling of loneliness, right? So we have this shared mission. We're all really working together, and that's helping. It's not like we're just kind of, here's your orders, go off into your own corner and do your work and come back. I think that each team kind of has the freedom to, do their own thing that works for them to help them. We work in mission teams, so kind of each team is kind of broken down kind of by product, and they have their little core teams, and you can see there's even like little subcultures in those teams, and those are cross-functional teams. So those aren't just like engineering or product; those are cross-functional teams of people that are working together, and that's really helped too. I think with the feelings of loneliness and isolation, I would say too, like unfortunately I'm not in a geographical area. There are other people on my team, but if there is, like, we have some folks that are kind of concentrated in New York, they will meet up. Our CEO will actually do like a little kind of tour and go to different areas where there is a concentration of people and host a dinner and have everyone drive in. He just did that kind of in the South. We have some folks in Georgia and the Carolinas, in Florida. So I think also just purposely making time to meet in person, if you can, just scheduling time, to connect as a human being, and sometimes not focusing so much on, deliverables is a good way to do that too.
So I have to go back to something you said. You said that the meetings are donut meetings, and I see
Yeah,
that Michelle knows what you're talking about, because you said showed up the little comment on the screen that said donut with a little green heart. So that's the name of the meeting, or that's like how the platform donut? Because I do know that there's an
it's the
HR.
platform.
Okay. So it is
Yeah.
the platform that I was thinking about. So okay, yeah. I came across donut probably about 6 months ago, but kind of lost touch in what they were doing. So I think that's really interesting. I think what it'll do is when we have this replay, I'm going to send, for those who are watching now, I'm going to tag Donut and give like a little, a link to their website so everybody can kind of see what we're talking about at this time.
Yeah.
So we had a comment from Bucky that said when we were talking about overlap, she said they also do the two
Yeah.
time a week overlap. She's actually asking, is the overlap in office hours or in Zoom?
So it's actually a structured meeting. So we do what we call on Mondays, we do like a weekly kickoff. And this is kind of where we focus more of our like, where's the business at? Like, we'll talk about subscribers. We'll talk about just some of our kind of high level goals. We'll maybe have some like user insights from someone on the product team. And then on Friday, we do like kind of a show and tell. So, we are a software company who is, very quickly working, very iteratively, releasing product, releasing, bug fixes, all of that all the time. So there's always something fun and exciting to see. And on Fridays, we do that show and tell. And we also do something called Q and Chaos, which is, we use Slido and people can ask questions or they can just throw in chaos, which is always very fun and funny. And everyone is really up for that. But yeah, those are like, when we actually go through like hiring folks, we let them know, like, these are the times, that, you need to be online, right? And different teams are different as well. So it might, kind of, certain countries may not be, the best fit for that based on those time zones, but at least we know that, right, going into it. And there's
Mhm.
not, we are always looking at ways to be more asynchronous, but we do believe that there is value in that synchronous time, even if it's over Zoom.
So, and Bucky says, nice. Thank you for answering the question.
Yeah, you're
So
welcome.
audience, if you have any questions, about really anything employee balance and well-being related, Susan and I are here to answer your questions. That's kind of why we're having this conversation. Susan and I do go over some of the questions ahead of time, but it's basically just a really free-flowing conversation that we're having here. And thank you, Michelle. Michelle added the link to the comments for Donut. Thank you for doing that. I appreciate it. So while we're having this conversation, we do want to include you, the audience, in this conversation. And I've got an audience poll. So right now, what is top of mind for you in terms of employee wellness right now? Is it digital solutions? Is it mental health? Is it financial wellness for your employee populations? Go ahead and add what your thoughts are to the comments. And we'll come back after this next question for Susan and kind of go over those. So Susan, you had mentioned that you are a team of one. So what I've heard you say is you're the head of one, or the one of the head. Of people. So a lot of our conversations are around employee health and wellness and balance and well-being, but we don't want to forget about the HR practitioners and HR executives, about how we take care of ourselves. So I think that's also a conversation that we have to have.
Yeah.
And so I'd like to know, what's your well-being experience as head of people for a remote workplace?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think, over the years, having been in, the HR space for almost 20 years now, which sounds very, very crazy to say out loud. I often ebb and flow between, giving too much of myself and then realizing, oh my gosh, I'm empty. I can't even give if my cup isn't full, right? So I think it is the old adage, right? Put your oxygen mask on first. I think, that it always applies. And as many times as you hear it, it never gets old. You have to. I mean, it's truly what you have to do. And because there's no one really saying to me, like, how are you doing? What are you doing? And that's kind of the role I play for other people. Like, I have to do that for myself. So I think having a network of people, I'm actually very glad to be connected with you, Kareen, and like actually some of the folks that are on the live today are people that I lean on and have leaned on in the past to help me with that. But I really think that, you know, I'm very grateful for the opportunity to be in a remote, environment, because I get to do those things that help me balance, right? I mean, I can't even imagine what my life would be like if I had to get up, get ready, leave the office, commute, be away from my family that entire day, and then get home at the end of the night and barely have time to, have a quick meal and then bedtime. I mean, that just wouldn't leave me the space that I need to feel connected. And that is my well-being, right? Is feeling connected to the people around me in my home. So that really is what feeds me, is being able to, maybe after a tough meeting or something, just like, or even just get a break in my day, pop out of my office, grab a glass of water, go for a walk around the block, do something like that, that is just not as accessible when you have to, commute and be in an office. So yeah, I think just asking myself how I'm doing too, and little reminders. That's like how I try to stay, filled so that I can give to others.
Yeah, and I mean the reality is I think that there is more than a third of the worker population that does have to go into the office, whether that's hybrid work or that they are in RTO right now. So
Mhm.
I really do think it's interesting that we do call it RTO rather than just being in the office, but it's,
Mm.
RTO now, return to office. Like it's something that is
Yes.
not normalized after the pandemic.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I feel that I would feel that I think stress and strain if I didn't wasn't a work from home mom too. So
Yeah.
yeah. But I also know that it's about flexibility and there are people out there that want to go into the office, that they
Yeah.
feel that they don't have a necessarily a feeling of well-being if they're not in an office
Yeah.
space.
Yeah. And I know it's hard for us to even remember before times, but I think about when I was, leading, an HR team, during that, pre 2020, and we had a more of a flexible work environment with a heavy in office presence. We were still leaning heavy into flexibility. Like, I don't think we should forget that that is something that we can employ. That is something as leaders we can still lean on, which is if you aren't a fully remote team and you do have an office presence, everyone makes those choices and that's between them and their gods. That either there's still things that you can do to help accommodate your team, whether they're parents or they're sandwiched with maybe taking care of their parents. I mean, we have people doing all kinds of life, right? And I think that there's still ways to accommodate flexibility and well-being, even in a return to office environment. We don't have to throw everything out the window.
No, I agree with you. And to that point, looking at how we set up with our health and wellness benefits is,
Mhm.
it's not cafeteria anymore. It's the flexibility that we give to people to make their own decisions with their health and wellness and what they need for their
Yeah.
lifestyles. You and I we'd sent that Wellable report, the Wellable State of Benefits in 2023 report back and forth between us. And to that point, they said the most popular solutions right now are employee assistance programs. I'm assuming that's, part of the flexibility. 72% of all people surveyed said that's their top go-to for employee wellness right now. Then digital health tools, 50% said that. And then lastly, education. So health and wellness and financial wellness education.
Mm.
So what did you think of that report?
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was really, I mean, I love data, so I think it was really great that there was able to actually provide, and there was all resonant, right? I agreed with everything, even from just like okay, gut check, like visceral level, like, yeah, that's right. That's what I'm hearing. I think that every organization, kind of like Michelle is saying, like, well-being is unique to each person. One of the things that I think about before totally applying something from a report or a big survey, right? What does your team need? And I think that even if it's just a quick pulse survey, something that how are these things doing? Because oftentimes we have access to things like an employee assistance program, or maybe our brokers can get us access to free tools that are digital. And if we just throw them at our team, are they really using them? Is it what they need? How do we curate the right environment for those things to work? So much of what we do, I think, in people operations is kind of marketing, and the communications of the things that we have. Simply making them available is not going to make an impact on our team. They actually have to be applied correctly and reminded, and utilization and all of that. So I think, yeah, I just think thinking about what our team needs, and maybe even doing some quick kind of pulsing with our team to find out like what they want and what they would use.
And you make a really good point there is that it's not that they don't want to use the solutions, the tools that are available. It may be that they're really busy and they don't exactly
Yeah.
know what it means. They don't have the data in front of them. They don't have the information in front of them. And it's our jobs to really like put it out there. To your point, part of our job, is intersectional in that it's marketing. It's marketing to let everybody know what we're doing and helping them live their best life, live their best work life.
Yeah, I know. I'm thinking about, I've heard this so many times from folks in marketing, and I believe it to be true. Like, people have to hear something at least 7 times, in order for them to really remember that that exists. And we live and breathe it every day. So we kind of assume that others understand and know where that page is in Notion, or that doc is, or that landing page is, or how to access the broker, whatever. They need to know, they need to hear about it kind of almost repetitively. And every team has different ways of making information accessible. But yeah, we should be kind of doing more of a sharing about that when we can. And it's hard. I know it's hard for me. I'm a team of one, but it's one of the goals I have this year is actually to be better about taking things that we're already doing and remarketing them, because we don't have a big budget. We don't have thousands and thousands and hundreds of thousands of dollars to, make these programs super flashy. We need to just, make sure people know how to get access to them.
Excellent. I want to go back to something when we were talking about the flexibility in the work week. Tila said, "I can't believe we used to do that every day. We used to commute every day." I can't even believe it. Think about the people like in the metro areas, like in London. Like, I used to commute to London for work when I lived in England, and it was like an hour 15 minutes each way. That was on the train. Driving was more.
Yeah, we just had a snowstorm here in Portland, and actually, we probably haven't had a snowstorm like that since like 2016 or 2017, and it was middle of the day. So it was like, if you were at the office and if you didn't leave, at that right exact time, you were probably going to be stuck on the highway for a couple of hours. I heard some people being stuck on the highway overnight, having to abandon their vehicles and, find a way home. So, that is, wild and crazy. And I just can't help but think, if my employer, had more of a forcing mechanism of requiring my office presence, I would feel a bit resentful of that experience, right? Because it's like, I wouldn't have been on the highway if I wasn't commuting from work. You know what I mean? So, I have strong feelings about remote work, if you can't tell.
Couldn't tell at all. Not a clue. So I want to go back to the comment, Ricky. We have some great conversation that's happening in the comments. I love it. I love it when we're having a conversation. We're having a conversation with our audience. The audience is having a conversation with themselves. It's so wonderful to see HR leaders, HR execs, talking with each other and gleaming nuggets of information from each other. And that's why we do these progressive HR lives, is because, giving back to our community and making sure that we can all support each other, like you said. So Ricky says, Michelle, completely agree. Curating a menu of offerings helps people to choose what works best for them. 100%. 100%. Or I should say like 1,000%. Like, I'm saying 1,000% or 200% now, because I don't really feel like 100% is enough to like show my accordance with something.
Yeah. Lots of pluses to that. I think that I don't think that there was maybe a day that we could just kind of apply one thinking, right? Or one strategy, or just do that kind of peanut butter approach, and that was enough. And I just think that human beings are just so nuanced and the world is so different, that we really have to, I love that idea of just, here's an a la carte menu, and pick the things that work best for you. I know I love side dishes, so I'm not just going to pick one side dish. I don't want to just have one, protein and one side dish. I want like 5 side dishes, and, I want to taste it all. I want to try things. So for me, that's different. So just like, I know for sure that this one thing works for me, but just making those accessible, I think is reaching the whole person, especially, in a small team where, I don't have all the resources. It does help to be able to say, here's what you have access to. Try it out.
I love that analogy of the side dishes. Like, almost like having one plate with just your normal stuff and then having another plate with your side dishes. Like a buffet. So one last comment that came in, Susan said, love that. Market what you already have. Love it too.
Yeah.
Love it too.
Yes.
So Susan, if you were going to summarize this conversation as we're kind of ending, what were the 2 or 3 points that we made during this conversation that you want to summarize for the audience?
Yeah. Oh gosh, that's hard. I know I didn't touch totally on some of the things, the trends that we talked about, but I think that the summary I would say is while there is trends and there are things that are in the market happening, do what's best for your team. You know them best. You have access to the information that they're willing to share, and hopefully that's rich because they trust you, or trust other folks on your team or other members of the leadership team. But lean into what is working for your team and try things that you already have. I think that that's probably the thing I would say, which does touch on like the retention strategy. I think a lot of teams are going through hard times. We don't have big budgets, and we don't have the ability to maybe go out and hire someone on our team to do this or bring on new programs. But we have things in our toolkit that we can use, and just get loud about them and make sure people know, because we just don't want anyone to be in silence wondering where they're at or what they're doing. And yeah, so that's what I think. My summary.
Thanks. So one, we are all about flexibility, and part about being flexible is that we can end this live now, or we can continue but for about 15 more minutes or 10 more minutes, however you want to. You did touch on that there was a few trends that you wanted to talk about. So I
Yeah,
wanted to ask you, let's go back to employee well-being trends
sure.
you mentioned at the beginning, and let's talk a little bit about those.
Sure. Yeah. I think we talked about mental health, digital solutions, and retention strategies. And I think the digital solutions is something that I'm really interested in, because there was a time I was actually reflecting back on a couple of companies ago, a couple of years back, where we brought in an in-house personal trainer that held kind of in-person events for our team. That they were able to we were all in office, right? Well, that doesn't really resonate anymore, and that's maybe not what everyone needs. So I think the digital solutions aspect of things is really interesting, because we also used to do like discounted membership for 24 Hour Fitness or another local gym. Well, I actually think that people are, because of the pandemic and because of just what works for them, and it's really inclusive and accessible. What are people using that's either on their phone or they can do on a smart TV, that's just really, they don't have to leave their homes, all of that. So I love that there are more solutions available when you think about well-being. There's things like Talkspace or Headspace or Calm. I mean, and all of those companies have really great like employer programs that are very cost effective. Like if you had maybe a very small budget, of like $1,500 or something, you could probably get access to that and offer that to your team. And I think that would be really impactful. So I really love the idea of just leaning into the digital solutions that are out there. And then the other thing is like the retention strategies. So I think
Mhm.
that's, you know, depending on where you're at in your company. I know that lots of teams have gone through, reductions and thinking about how they're going to, make it to the next iteration of the organization. We want people to stick around. I mean, the post layoff is the hardest time, I think, for HR leaders. I mean, it's hard to
Mhm.
go through that and to have people, leading a team, but reflecting on a time where I had to do that, I know that the bounce back is where like that muscle has to really be strong, and figure out how you're going to retain those people that have all gone through a collective kind of trauma experience. Might even have some feelings of survivor's guilt, and you don't want people to jump ship either, because they're worried about the future of the company. So I think retention strategies is a big thing too, for sure, right now.
Excellent. Thank you. So quick clarifying question actually is when you talk about
Yeah.
digital solutions, do you include like health marketplace platforms in that?
Yeah, I mean, there is, so this is the first time in my career that I've actually worked with a PEO, and we were partnered with JustWorks. And so they offer a ton of digital solutions being a partner. And one of them is like Medical One. I haven't used it yet, but I've heard a lot of really great things from folks who have used that. But there's also, I mean, like telehealth has come such a long way, from everything from mental health to, even just a regular doctor's visits. Like I know personally, one of the things that I struggle with is like the time to do things for myself. But if I literally don't have to leave my desk or my home to have that doctor's visit, then I'm much more inclined to actually make that visit and keep it, rather than continuing to like reschedule it because I have to go somewhere and find childcare and do all of that, right? So I think that the digital solutions like it fully encompass like the yeah, medical kind of marketplaces as well.
Yeah, and I'm waiting for the day where they have like dentist visits.
That would
So
be great.
maybe with some like, VR happening there. That's one thing. I just do not like going to the dentist. And so I don't
Yeah.
go. And it takes
You
so
and my
long.
4-year-old.
Oh, oh. Well, audience, I think we're going to end this conversation here. But before we go, I would like to know, what is the great way to connect with you and learn more about your work at Universe?
Yeah, so you can connect with me on LinkedIn if you're not already. And then our company website is univer.se. So you can connect to Universe, you can check out our website, our homepage, find out if you want to try to build a website from scratch on the internet, on the web. Like if you don't have an Apple phone, you can do it on the web. And that we have a new product that's in beta. Build a website for what you're doing for your portfolio. I think for your resume, if you're out there looking for a new job, it's really a wonderful thing you could do to showcase all of your skills and talents. But yeah, so you can check me out on LinkedIn or our company website to follow for more.
Oh, thank you. And you can follow me, Corinne Woodman Hallebeck, on LinkedIn. You can also follow the company page, Progressive HR. This Progressive HR Live will replay for about a week on LinkedIn. We're also going to put together some highlights of this conversation. But if there's anyone that you think would enjoy this conversation or get benefit from this conversation, please do share this post, this live with them. We greatly appreciate it. And so we got a really great lineup coming for Progressive HR Live Season 3. Yes, we're in our 3rd season, if you can believe it. The next, as we mentioned earlier on, our next episode, episode 2, will be Bucky Keaty, and she's coming on in March 14th. The event link on LinkedIn is up, and you can go ahead and click attend for that. She's a head of people and culture with the editorialist, and we're going to walk through the case study of editorialist values and how they're reflected every day in editorialist culture and work. And any questions you have for Bucky, you can ask them live. So before we go, we've got a few comments that have come in, and that says, oh, Susan, that's when it's you. Susan Nelson says, thank you. Oh, that didn't come up. There we go. Thank you both for a wonderful conversation. Great to see you thriving, Susan. Thanks, Susan. Appreciate it. Progressive HR Live audience, thank you for joining us today. Greatly appreciate you taking your time out to have this conversation with us. And Susan, thank you so much for being my guest today.
Yeah, thank you, Corinne. And thanks everyone for the conversation. Be safe out there and be good to yourselves too.
Yes, be safe, be well, be good to yourself. I appreciate that. All right. Thank you, Resourceful Humans. Have a wonderful rest of your Tuesday.